Hey, my name is ShawNshawN, and I sell art on ShawNshawN.co and specials on eBay. Today we're going to review Knives Out. So Knives Out is a mystery by Rian Johnson. He also did one of the Star Wars films on the latest series when Disney owns it. Time is about 2 hours and 10 minutes. Kind of long, but it's a mystery, so you kind of need that kind of full development of all the characters and everything, so I think that's justified the extra time. You have Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, the senior private detective that's been hired. Chris Evans is Ransom Drysdale, one of the lineage grandsons of the grandfather. Ana de Armas is Marta Cabrera. She's the nurse of this caretaker famous author, Harlan Tromsby. Jamie Lee Curtis is Linda Drysdale, one of the daughters of Harlan. Michael Shannon is Walt Tromby, another son of Tromby. And Don Johnson is Richard Drysdale, another son of Harlan Tromsby. And there's several other actors, daughters, etc. So the story is this famous author, Harlan Tromsby, is having his 85th birthday party. So he invites all his extended family over. But then the next day, he's found dead. So you're like, ooh, what happened here? So it's a classic, who killed who, kind of a clue setup with a really large mansion. It could have been any of the people there, obviously. The cops show up, but they start the investigation. There's this mystery detective in the background. And they're like, who's this guy in the background? And the detective kind of takes over after the cops do the initial questioning, what they want, and they're kind of ruling, it looks like a suicide. There's nothing to decide that it's not, and the detective is like, no, let's look a little bit deeper because someone mysteriously hired me. So you don't even know who hired the detective, which is really weird, but he's this famous detective, so he's supposed to be really smart. I really like this screenplay, just the way the mystery all comes together, the different plot lines, the twists and turns in the plot is really well done. I'll definitely say Rian Johnson just is way better than Star Wars. Even though I'm a Star Wars fan, this is just way better done. I think you had Disney screwing it up and Lucas out of the plot, but whatever. That's neither here nor there, right? So it's a great plot line. The interesting part is the way they play it. Instead of kind of going this way and then that way and this way and that way, is they do that a little bit in the beginning, and then boom, you find out one of the suspects right away. But the detective doesn't know, so you're wondering, is this person going to die? Is they going to get caught? And then in the end, there's actually this underlying plot line besides the one you know of. So it's a really interesting double twist, which makes for a really great mystery. They have a double twist in there. Plus you have this long suspense scene with the audience knows one of the suspects, but Detective Blanc is, so how long is it until he finds out? So that's kind of a really fun point. You also kind of suspect, at first you kind of think Detective Blanc seems like this really cocky guy, but maybe he's an idiot, Like he can figure out some cases that cops can, but he's not really that brilliant. The thing also is you find out later the grandfather kind of sets up his own murder/suicide in a way. So there's an interesting plot twist along the way. All the characters are pretty interesting. None of them are beyond the pale of who's the suspect. You have Jamie Lee Curtis is one of his daughters. She's founded his own business, but it depended on the loan of the grandfather. Her daughter is being supported directly by the grandfather, Harlan Tromsby, and she's getting this fancy private school, obviously, and that's like a huge amount of money. But her mom's been double dipping, so charging Harlan twice and then backing it back to her. So double dipping on the student funds. So, the grandfather's not happy with her. Don Johnson, who plays Richard Drysdale, one of the sons, he's caught having an affair, and the grandfather's threatening him. Is like, you're gonna tell your wife about it. He's like, no, I can't do that. You'll destroy the marriage. And he's like, I don't care. You're gonna do it, or I'm gonna cut you off. And then he's like, what? So you have that as a good motive. You also have Walt Tromby is his son who hasn't really done anything with his life, but he manages the whole publishing side of the business. His father's writing these great books, and he's kind of publishing, getting them translated, and all that behind-the-scenes operation. He's trying to lean on his grandfather to do movies, and Harlan doesn't want to do any movies, but Walt says, no, what are you talking about? We can make so much more money. So Harlan's kind of sick of him. He's like, we're done with you. You're going to have to go find your own stuff. And he's like, he's wasted 30 years of his life doing this. He has no preparation for the real world. You have the grandson. One of the grandsons is Ransom Drysdale. He's a spoiled brat. Everyone in the family hates him, and he just kind of lives in his own little, small, really nice house, but he's just he's totally mooching off the family, and the grandfather decides, maybe to cut him off. So you have all these people getting cut off of the fortune, so they all have motive to go and kill him. So you really don't know where the plot's going to go. So it has a really nice development of the plot. One of the characters is interesting, that the detective kind of pulls her aside right away because she's just one of the hired help, and he's like, I hear you get sick when you tell the truth. And it's true, every time she tells the truth she gets sick. So obviously that's a huge disadvantage, being one of the suspects or not a suspect. So she's pulled in as one of the helpers, and she's like, oh my god, why am I getting pulled into this? And a lot of the different characters turn over time, and they turn to have even more devious motives. The grandfather screwed over more people than we realize. It's quite a bit of development as you peel back the onion. It gets worse and worse, the motive, so you get more and more suspicious of everyone. I think what they could have done as well, they have the motives for why the family doesn't like him, but they kind of stick on one plot line and then a subplot line. But they could have developed side plot lines on the other characters of why they're getting pissed. I think it's well enough developed, but you could have had more development as far as like how bad the aunt, who has this her own business, how badly maybe her business is doing. Like, she gets a call on the line, it's like, oh well, we're going to foreclose you if you don't get more money, or whatever, and some reason why she's double dipping on her daughter's education. The granddaughter, she's young, so she can recover, right? Same with the other grandson, he's young, he can recover. They're both kind of mooching off of, one's a drug user going to school, the other one's kind of doing nothing with his life but living it up. So all these are kind of no good characters in a way. The only one that's really good is probably the nurse and the help around the house. And one of them actually gets knocked off almost in the film. So you have this kind of, who the hell is doing it? Who's behind what? So it goes back and forth. I won't reveal more than that because it is a really fun ride for revealing what's going on. You can't really talk about too much of the plot line without giving a lot of away, which would ruin a great story. Oh, another thing was the sets and the costumes are really well done. You get a real feel for the aunt being this privileged rich girl that runs her own company. So she's got the powerhouse on Jamie Lee Curtis. You have Don Johnson kind of playing this stately guy, but then he's having an affair, so he thinks he's a playboy kind of, but elderly playboy. You got this kind of gaudy furniture that this guy collects as an author, and he writes mysteries himself, so obviously his suicide murder is going to be, it becomes a mystery of its own because certain elements in the house, there's secret doors, secret windows, secret ways to get in the house that people don't know of. So that kind of makes it interesting that you can't figure out until later. You're like, oh, there's a secret passage and no one knew about, right? Which makes the plot work really well. Another thing is you have suspects that are really stupid at the same time and suspects that are really smart. So that's pretty funny. Like, some of them are just total idiots and you're like, dude, did you really do it or not? And then smart suspect comes out in the end. So that's kind of interesting. At the same time, you have kind of the symbolism of the word game Go, which is supposed to be more complex than chess. I play Go and I don't find it that challenging. Maybe I just haven't played good Go players. I don't know. But for me, chess is more hard. But they use Go as kind of this figurative of one of the servants is actually better than one of the own descendants of Harlan. So, that descendant takes it really personally that he's worse at the game of Go than the daughter, the helper, and you're like, why would you even care, but it's like this strategic game. So that's kind of a symbolic reference to the rest of the film as those different suspects play off against each other. It's kind of like a game of Go per se. And only recently a supercomputer beat a human in Go, so that shows you how complex Go is versus, say, chess. But I just think they tried chess earlier versus Go, so I don't really think that's, I don't know. I just play Go. It doesn't seem that difficult. I don't know. Maybe I'm just over. Maybe it's just easy for me. I don't know. I do puzzles and stuff. But anyway, I think this was a really fun movie. I don't really see any flaws. Good timing. You definitely need that time to develop a lot of the characters, so you can't really do it that quick. A lot of mysteries are long development, but you get that danger if it gets too long and you got to go to the bathroom, you got to leave in the middle. So I definitely don't recommend having a Coke before. It's 2 hours 10 minutes. You're gonna pee your pants. But it's definitely a fun ride, the same as like Ford vs Ferrari, but that's in a total different thing. Ford vs Ferrari is a lot of special effects, but both stories have that kind of nice personality conflict between the family members, between the grandfather he's kind of overruling these guys his whole life because he's got all the money, and then he's just dictating how they have to live their lives, and they're all resentful. So it has a lot of those different things that go into the story. So I would recommend it. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you in the next movie review. Thanks for watching, guys.